is a farmer in South Australia. He's a cattle farmer. He also holds a very important position. He started an organisation some years ago called Flag Australia, and I think this is playing a pivotal position in the country in relation to farming. Peter, could you tell us about what Flag Australia is and why you established it?
FLAG stands for Food Producers Landowners Action Group Australia. And the reason I started the organisation was I could see the way the bureaucracy was absolutely killing us mum and dad farmers with ridiculous draconian laws. And that's the reason I started it. And we've got to have the right to grow clean, healthy food in Australia by the mum and dad farmers of this country. And especially now with the virus that's come out of China, it's more important than ever before that we become self-sufficient in food, David.
Peter, one of the things that came to my attention a few years ago, and it caused me a lot of concern, and that was what was happening to the country in the hands of the politicians, who seemed to be either making serious problems, or if the problems existed, making them worse. And I worked out with a young friend that we'd produce a book on this. We called it Give Us Back Our Country. The argument was that our federation needed to be looked at again. It was a very good federation, but that the people needed to have more control over the politicians. The politicians had to be more accountable to the people. And we saw this in a number of areas, and one very significant area which impacts on you was in relation to farming. And we were so horrified with what we found, with the attitude of the politicians and the bureaucrats towards the mum and dad farmers of Australia, that we went so far as to head the chapter, why do they hate our farmers? Why do they hate our farmers? And I think this is exemplified not that long ago in a case in Queensland, when a farmer, and it was in drought, he was finding that his cattle were starving, and he decided to feed them mulga on his own land, not anybody else's mulga on his own land. He fed them mulga, and he was being spied on, as is the practice of the bureaucracy. He was charged with some offence, and he was found guilty, and he was fined an extraordinary amount, well over $100,000, for feeding his starving cattle with mulga from his own property. Now, how on earth could that happen in Australia? This is what I wonder. And I'm wondering what your comment is to the theme of that chapter, that is, why do they hate our farmers?
Well, David, if I was the judge, I would have thrown it out of court. This is environmentalism gone mad. This is to do with native vegetation acts. And that was a huge animal welfare issue. He was keeping animals alive. He should have been given a gold medal, actually. And to think that the farmers are putting up with fire, flood, drought, government over-regulation, red and green tape, and to go to court because of that is absolutely disgusting. It really is. But why do they hate us farmers? Very simple. I've worked that one out, because they want our properties, the mum and dad farmers, for the globalist. They want them for the corporations. And that's why they're making it so difficult for us mum and dad farmers to farm. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going through this. And if we have a look at our politicians today, the respect is gone. We don't trust them anymore. And it's quite obvious that small business and our farms, the mum and dad farms are a small business, they don't want us. So these politicians today are a disgrace, and we do need big, big change. We really do. And you've spoken about this many, many times, Professor, and really appreciate you coming on board with this. It's to have somebody like you is fantastic.
Just on that, if I may continue just for a few moments, given the virus at the moment and the concern there is in the country about this, One of the factors which relate to this is that a lot of property, premium property, has been handed over, has been approved to be handed over to corporations. And they're not just ordinary corporations, they're corporations under the control and the direction of the Communist Party of China. And sometimes in relation to these farms, we hear that there's even a practice of bringing in workers from overseas on the farms. And there's the famous paddock to plate. Paddock to plate means the corporation exports the produce, dairy produce, for example, from the farm. It goes off to the People's Republic of China. No tax is therefore paid in Australia because there's no transaction. And one wonders what the benefit of that is for Australia. And this is I think, one of the serious issues which we should be addressing. Why have our politicians allowed this to happen?
Well, David, pretty simple. Follow the money. They've been bought. That's why, because any decent person would not allow this to happen. This is going to have huge ramifications, not only now, but for future generations. And we need to stop this. There has to be a movement to stop this because, unfortunately, both Liberal and Labor are involved in this, the greatest sell-off. And we only have to have a look at a couple of huge properties that have been sold, like Van Diemen's Land's dairies that were milking 18,000 head of dairy cows. Jan Cameron didn't get a look in that wanted to buy it, and it was sold to the Chinese. We have a look at the Kidman Cattle Empire, sold to Mrs. Reinhardt and the Chinese. People that supported that, absolutely disgusting, because there was 4 iconic station owners that had the money to purchase that, and it would have been 100% Australian owned. And you mentioned about these foreign entities that are not paying tax in this country. I just can't believe it. I really can't. And, you know, you look at these politicians and you think, you know, they'd be intelligent people. No intelligent person would allow a foreign entity to come in, buy up our cash cow and not pay any tax. It is ludicrous, disgusting, and it needs to stop ASAP.
The name of our book was Give Us Back Our Country. Perhaps what it should really be is Australians Take Back Your Own Country. And this is something which must happen. It must happen indeed. Well, thank you very much, Peter. You're conducting a very important operation there. May you long continue to do it. And we'll be talking again on several occasions about various aspects of this very, very serious problem. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Professor. To have somebody like you on side that can see what's going on is very, very important. And could you just tell the people, I've got your book, Give Us Back Our Country. Could you just tell the people how they can purchase your book, Give Us Back Our Country?
Peter, it's available through Connor Court, which is an Australian publisher. Just Google Give Us Back Our Country and they will find that. Perhaps more importantly, there's a petition on change.org under the name of Give Us Back Our Country. And people can, if they wish, go to change.org and Google that petition or my name and they'll find it and read through that petition. It summarizes our arguments, and if they agree with it, they can sign the petition, which would be a significant step towards achieving what we want to achieve in this country, because we must take back our own country.
Thank you very much, David. Much appreciated. Thank you.